All right.
All righty.
Buddy.
Okay, let's go back to the summary of 1776. January 9th, 1776. Number 1, resolved that no postage be paid for any letter to or from private soldiers while engaged in the actual service in the defense of the United Colonies, and that such letters be franked by some person authorized for that purpose by the commanding officer of the department. January 27th of 1776, number 1, the scribe's note. Does your office of private secretary of the president is created to be paid by the United Colonies. March 30th, 1776, 1, the scribe note. Does your military office of mate of regimental surgeon is created. April 1st, 1776, number 1, scribe notes. More de jure offices / departments are created. Resolved, therefore, that the Treasury Office of Accounts shall be instituted and established, and that such office shall be kept in the city or place where Congress shall, from time to time, be assembled to hold their session. That said office of accounts shall be under the direction and superintendence of the Standing Committee for the Treasury. Number 2, scribe notes, more de jure offices, that the Auditor General and a competent number of assistants or clerks shall be appointed by Congress and employed for stating, arranging, and keeping public accounts. A further detailed description of the above follows in the journals. April 6th of 1776, number 1, resolved that any goods, wares, and merchandise except staves and empty caskets other than shaken or knocked down caskets from molasses may be exported from the 13 United Colonies by the inhabitants thereof and by the people of such countries as are not subject to the King of Great Britain, to any part of the world which are not under the dominion of the said King, provided that no vessel be permitted to export any greater number of shaken or knocked down molasses casks, that the same vessel be capable of carrying when they shall be filled with molasses. I'm not really quite sure what that means. But moving on. Number 2, resolved that all goods, wares, and merchandise except such are of the growth, production, or manufacture of or bought from any country under the dominion of the King of Great Britain, except East India tea, may be imported from any other part of the world to the 13 colonies by the inhabitants thereof, and by the people of all such countries are not subject to the said king, liable, however, to all such duties and impositions as now are or may hereafter be laid by any of the said colonies. Number 3, resolved that nothing herein contained shall be understood to prevent such future commercial regulations as shall be thought just and necessary by these United Colonies or their respective legislatures. Number 4, resolved, no slave will be imported into the 13 United Colonies. I'll repeat that. Number 4, resolved, no slaves will be imported into any of the 13 United Colonies. This was resolved on April 6th of 1776. April 10th, 1776, that although the prosperity of Dartmouth College in the colony of New Hampshire is a desirable object, it is neither seasonable nor prudent to contribute toward its relief or support out of the public treasury. I find that laughable. Dartmouth wanting to be funded out of the public treasury. May 10th, 1776. Number 1, resolved that it be recommended to the respective assemblies and conventions of the United Colonies that where no government sufficient to the exigencies, right? Oh my God. Anyway, for their affairs have been hitherto established to adopt such governments as shall, in the opinion of the representatives of the people, best conduce to happiness and safety of their constituents in particular and America in general. Okay. If somebody just didn't beat me up with a bunch of words there. June 5th, 1776. 1. Resolved that no person shall be appointed in any place of profit unless the person be appointed shall have a majority of the voices of the colonies represented at the time of the election. Does that pass the smell test?
No, that sounds like democracy.
Okay. Hey, Nino. Welcome, buddy.
Oh. And I want to revert back to no slaves will be imported into the 13 states.
Colonies.
Now,
United Colonies, bro.
Colonies. So my question there is, does that mean there's no slaves in the 13 colonies? Or does that mean there's still slaves, but the 13 colonies couldn't claim any of them?
I think it's no more new imports of slaves. So, because slaves were considered property, right? And so, if property bred with property and slaves proliferated, then that property would belong to said property owner.
Yeah. So,
yeah, you know what I'm saying.
So
right?
basically, so slavery ended in 1776.
Exactly. At least in the United States. Or at least the importation of slaves.
And then the 1787 Constitution created the slavery again until they decided to update the 14th Amendment.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, if you think about it, any style creates representation, right?
Yes.
Because remember, we're all living men and women until we cross the style. The style brings us across this barrier of jurisdiction. So.
Yeah, so they're basically saying the Articles of Confederation allowed for free men, didn't matter what the color. But the style for the 1787 Constitution continued the slavery until the 14th Amendment was created to allow them some kind of citizenship.
Now, I mean, if you boil down to, like, I look at it this way. The style comes to what allows the barrier, allows you to cross the barrier. And once you cross that barrier, that allows you the jurisdiction, or allows you freedom of the jurisdiction.
Yeah. So the Articles of Confederation was that barrier for the men to be free, no matter what the color, right? And the bridge or the barrier to the 1787 Constitution was a bridge back into slavery.
Yeah, but I think you're missing it, because the articles themselves are actually a bridge themselves. Because remember, Article 1 of the Articles of Confederation says exactly the style of this convention, or the style of this confederation, the style of this confederation be the United States. Says it's clearly on the first article, the Articles of Confederation. So, and there's a couple of things we need to continue on with, because if we move on with this, we'll see what we're getting at. Okay. June 7th of 1776. Number one, certain resolutions respecting independency be moved and second. Resolved that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states, and that they are absolved from their allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that it is expedient forthwith to take the most effectual measure for forming foreign alliances, and that a plan of confederation be prepared and transmitted to the respective colonies for their consideration and approbation. This resolution from Henry Lee of Virginia. June 10th of 1776. Resolved that the consideration of the first resolution be postponed to this day, 3 weeks, July 1. And in the meanwhile, that no time be lost in case Congress agreed thereto, that a committee be appointed to prepare a declaration to effect of the said first resolution, which is in these words, that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from their allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. June 12th of 1776, resolved that a committee to prepare and digest a form of confederation be entered into between the colonies, consist of a member of each colony. What's that smell like? Number two, a committee to prepare a plan of treaties to be proposed to foreign powers, consist of 5 members. Number 3, scribe's note, more de jure offices are created, a secretary and 1 more clerk be appointed by Congress for new committees entitled Board of War and Ordnance. An oath is increased as well. And for those that don't know, an ordnance is a bomb. So, Board of War and Bombs. I, A.B., do solemnly swear that I will not directly or indirectly divulge any matter or thing which shall come to my knowledge as Secretary on the Board of War and Ordnance for the United Colonies, or Clerk of the Board of War and Ordnance established by Congress without the leave of the said Board of War and Ordnance, and I will faithfully execute said office according to the best of my skill and judgment, so help me God. June 24th of 1776. Number 1, the Congress took in consideration a report of the Committee on Spies, whereupon resolved that all persons abiding within the United Colonies deriving protection from the laws of the same owe allegiance to the said laws and are members of such colony, and that all persons passing through. I'll say that again. All persons, P-E-R-S-O-N-S, persons passing through visiting or making temporary stay in any of the said colonies being entitled to the protection of the laws during the tide of such passage, visitation, or temporary stay, owe during the same time allegiance thereto. That all persons members of or owing allegiance to any of the United Colonies as before described, who shall levy war against any of the said colonies within the same be abhorrent. 2. The King of Great Britain and others and the other enemies of the said colonies, or any of them within the same, giving him or them aid and comfort, are guilty of treason against such colony. That it be recommended to the legislature of the United Colonies to pass laws for punishing in such manner as them shall seem fit. Such persons before described shall be provably attained of open deed by people of their condition of any of the treasons before described. That it be recommended that the legislatures of the several United Colonies to pass laws for punishing in such manner as to them shall think fit persons who shall counterfeit or aid and abet in counterfeiting the Continental bills of credit, or who shall pass and such bills in payment, knowing the same to be counterfeit. Damn. Even back then. June 28th of 1776. Number 1, scribes note, the first draft of the Declaration of Independence is presented before Congress. Okay, pay attention, folks. The first draft of the so-called Declaration of Independence, that piece of paper we all stand under. Well, guess what? The first draft is right here. So before there was ever a Declaration of Independence, there was an Articles of Confederation. So let's make this perfectly clear. The Articles of Confederation have never been repealed. And if they were repealed, that would mean the Declaration of Independence is repealed. July 1, 1776. 1. Resolved that this Congress will resolve itself into a committee of the whole to take into consideration the resolution respecting independency. Number 2. Resolved that the declaration be referred to said committee. Wow, the big day, folks. July 4th, 1776. Number 1.
Hey, Eugene, may I? Sean from Bucks County.
Knock yourself out, Sean.
When you look back up to June the 28th, 1776, and you look at Declaration of Independence, what style is that? That's all lower. That's all lowercase.
There you go. Yeah.
This is not yield. I just wanted to point that out.
There you go. Yeah, cool. Very cool. All righty, back to the big day. Number 1, that the committee of the whole Congress has agreed that the declaration known as the unanimous Declaration of the 13 United States of America. Number 2, ordered that the declaration be authenticated and printed, that copies of the Declaration be sent out to several assemblies, conventions, and committees, or councils of safety, and to several commanding officers of the Continental troops, that be proclaimed in each of the United States and the head of the Army. Now, does anybody know what word in that group of words seems to be incredibly powerful or incredibly interesting? Ordered that the Declaration be authenticated and printed, that copies of the Declaration be sent out to several assemblies, conventions, committees, or councils of safety, to the several commanding officers of the Continental troops. The what troops? The Continental troops, the Continental Congress, the jurisdiction of the what? Anybody?
Land.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right there, folks. July 12th, 1776. Number one, the committee was appointed to prepare the Articles of Confederation broad draft, which was read. This version has 20 articles. Number two, the de jure office of Assistant of Clerk was created. July 17th of 1776.
Hey, can I stop you there for 1 second? Going back to that Continental. Going back to the Continental thing. Why do they call it Continental? Does that include Canada?
Yes, it does. Ouch, Nino. Why you got to say stuff like that? What's wrong with you, man?
You know, throwing it out there. I mean,
what's wrong with you,
keep
man?
saying Canada's the 51st state now. You know, and there's a reason why, like, you know, everything's happening the way that it is in my mind. Like, Trump's going out there calling things the 51st state. Trump's going out there saying things like, we have to, you know, address the 14th Amendment, right? Because he wanted to create an executive order saying it's unconstitutional. So now they actually have to, like, review it, right? So all these things are coming to light for some reason, right? And the reason is because they're trying to show you. Now, yeah, it's still a big act over there, but they're trying to show you a couple hidden secrets, I think, at the same time.
Yeah, if you look at where Canada is registered, it's actually registered through Washington, D.C., not through Canada's government.
Yep. So the Continental Congress, right? Now my question is, was Canada at that time?
May I? Rick,
Go for it. Go for it, Rick.
Would this not also then, if you're talking about continental, not only include Canada but Mexico?
Yep.
Yes.
I was always under the impression it was wherever, because I know that jus soli is predominant in both North America and South America. So jus soli is predominant in basically the stands in the New World. Okay. So anything that's considered the New World, that would be North and South America.
May I? This is Logan from Minnesota. I was told to announce myself.
Go for it.
Well, here I am.
Knock yourself. Oh, welcome.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just here to learn.
Well, welcome. All righty. Moving on to back to July 17th of 1776. Number one, the Congress took into consideration the report of the Committee on the Rules and Orders for Government of the House, whereupon resolved that the following rules be observed. Scribe notes that there are 12 rules. I wonder what that's all about. But July 18th of 1776, the committee appointed to prepare a plan of treaties to be entered into with foreign states or kingdoms brought in a report was read. July 19th of 1776 resolved that the declaration passed on the 4th be fairly engrossed on parchment with the title and style. Ouch! Let's read this again. July 19th, 1776. Number 1 resolved that the declaration passed on the 4th be fairly engrossed on parchment with the title and style, S-T-I-L-E, of the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, and that the same, when engrossed, be signed by every member of Congress. Okay, folks. Do I have to go over this thing about style again? Do I have to go over this thing about style? Look it up. Hey, Penny, can you pull that up for me?
Are you talking about
style? Can you pull up the definition of style?
Here.
There you go. You see that thing right there on the right there? Structure which provides a passage through or over a fence or boundary. A style is a structure which provides people a passage through a fence or boundary. A boundary of jurisdiction, maybe? All right, folks, right there. Trust me, these learned, educated bar attorneys wouldn't make spelling mistakes. They know exactly what they mean when they wrote style. Okay. So, August 6th of 1776 resolved that for the future there be only one Continental Treasurer. August 20th of 1776, number 1, scribe notes, Congress reviews the latest draft of the Articles of Confederation and perpetual union. It says and perpetual union. Not in a perpetual union. And. A-N-D, and. A perpetual union. And a separate entity called Number 2, the committee appointed to prepare a device for the Great Seal of the United States, brought in the same with the explanation thereof. This seal was eventually not agreed to. I'm going to read this again. August 20th of 1776, written in the journals of the Continental Congress. Number 2, from the scribe's note, the committee appointed to prepare a device for a great seal for the United States, brought in the same, with an explanation thereof. This seal was eventually not agreed to. Penny? Penny?
I know. I'm going to go find it. There's all kinds of crap to get to.
Penny is going to invite you over to the National Archives.
Gosh. Where is it?
Uh-oh. I think I have it up somewhere. Oh, that's not it. National Archives.
I don't know.
No. It's in the National. It's the one I sent. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on.
Found it.
You have it? Put it in the chat if you get it. Okay. All right. My. What do we got here, folks? What do we have here? My. What do we have here? Okay. The original design of the Great Seal of the United States in 1782. Just a few hours after the Declaration of Independence was adopted by the Continental Congress of 1776, the first committee to design a seal for the United States was appointed. Its design began after undergoing numerous changes. On June 20th of 1782, the seal was officially adopted by the Continental Congress. The Great Seal of the United States is a symbol of our sovereignty as a nation. It's observed, is used on official documents to authenticate the signatures of the President, and it appears on proclamations, warrants, treaties, and commissions of high officials of the government as a declaration on military uniform buttons, on plaques above entrances of U.S. embassies and consulates and other places, both the observe and less familiar reserve, which is never used as a seal or imprinted on the $1 bill. The history of the Great Seal begins with the day of our founding nation, our founding as a nation. The Continental Congress appointed a committee to design a seal for the United States on July 4th of 1776, just a few hours after they had adopted the Declaration of Independence. The committee members, Benjamin Franklin, yes, Benjamin Franklin, my hometown, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, prepared a very complicated design that was promptly tabled by Congress. However, one prominent feature of their design appeared in the design that was originally adopted, the motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. And in 1780, a second committee, James Lovell of Massachusetts and John Moran Scott and William Churchill Houston of Virginia, developed a second design, but it was also tabled by Congress, like the first design. The second had elements that were later incorporated into the final seal, including olive branches, a constellation of 13 stars, and a shield with red and white stripes on a blue field. A third committee was appointed in May of 1782. This committee's design employed the eagle for the first time in the crest. Early in 1782, Congress referred to 3 designs of the Secretary of the Continental Congress, Charles Thomson. Thomson made a 4th design that was revised by William Barton, a Philadelphia student of heraldry. Thomson submitted a description of his final version to the Continental Congress that was described, the design and explanation. The Continental Congress approved the design on June 20th, 1782. This is out of the National Archives, people. The National Archives. So I just read that out of the National Archives, and then I just read the thing before that out of the actual Articles of Confederation. So I don't think I'm blowing smoke up anybody's, side. Anyway, moving on. Number 1. Oh, wait, where are we at? June 18th. June 19th. Okay, June.
I'm trying to find it. Sorry.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. We're at August 20. I know we're War Ordinance 1776.
Here it is. Okay.
Where are we? Where are we? August 20th? Okay, hold on. August 20. Okay. Scribe note. Scribe notes. I don't think we were. Whatever. Congress reviews the latest drafts of the Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union, and has been reduced to 17 articles. Number 2, the committee appointed to prepare a device for the Great Seal. All right, we went through this. 27 of August, 1776. Number 1, resolved that the plan of the treaties with the amendments be referred to the committee, who be brought in the original plans in order to draw up instructions pursuant to the amendment made by the Committee of the Whole. September 7th of 1776, resolved that all letters to and from the Board of War and Ordnance or the Secretary of the same be free of all expenses in the Post Office of the United States. September 20th of 1776, number 1, Congress resumed the consideration of the Articles of War, being debated by the paragraphs were agreed to as follows. Resolved that from and after the publication of the following articles in respective armies of the United States, the rules and articles by which said armies have heretofore been governed shall be, they are hereby repealed. Scribe notes, thus new articles of war are approved, repealing old versions. Okay, back to what I said earlier. You see how they noted? How they repealed something in writing? Okay, so people, go find where we repealed this Articles of Confederation in writing. Go find it. Because that would repeal our Declaration of Independence and all this rah-rah. Because this was down before we ever had a Declaration of Independence. Before there was ever a such thing. So, on September 24th of 1776, number 1, Congress resumed the consideration of the instruction to the agent, scribe's note, pre-ambassador, and the same being debated by paragraphs and amended where agreed to, scribe's notes. These were to be eventually offerings of the treaties to foreign countries, etc. October 21 of 1776, Congress took into consideration the forms of the oaths to be taken by the officers in the service of the continent, which was agreed to as follows. I do acknowledge the 13 United States of America, namely New Hampshire, Massachusetts Bay, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, to be free, independent, sovereign states, and declare that the people thereof owe no allegiance or obedience to George III, King of Great Britain, and I renounce, refuse, and abjure any allegiance, obedience to him, and I do swear that I will, to the utmost of my power, support and maintain and defend the said United States against the King George III and his heirs and successors and their abettors, assistants, and adherents, and will serve the United States in the office which I now hold, and in any other office which I hereafter hold by their appointment, or under their authority, with fidelity and honor, and according to the best of my skill and understanding, so help me God. Number 2, resolved that every officer who holds or shall hereafter hold commission or office for Congress shall subscribe to above declaration and take a foregoing oath. October 30th of 1776, number 1, resolved that the rank of officers of the Marines be the same as the officers in the Commission of the Land Service. So Marines are land troops on ships, but they're still attached to the Navy. December 12, 1776, number 1, resolved that this Congress be, for the present, adjourned to the town of Baltimore in the state of Maryland to meet on the 20th instance, unless a sufficient number to make a Congress shall be sooner assembled, and that until the Congress shall otherwise order, General Washington be possessed with full power to order and direct things relative to the department and the operations of war, that several matters to this day referred be postponed to the day when which Congress is adjourned. December 30th of 1776. Number 1, resolved that the commissioners be brought forth and sent to the court of Vienna, Spain, Prussia, and the Grand Duke of Tuscany. Scribed notes, many stipulations are presented. Scribed notes, page 1063, 1068, volume 6, lists all the standing committees during 1775 to 1776 and the committee members and their terms of service. Okay, that was 1776, and quite honestly, the reason why we went over that again, because 1776 is really quite important, isn't it? Oh boy, wait till we get into 1777. Oh boy. So anybody want to have anything to talk about? What was presented there? What our forefathers, our founding forefathers, what they put to paper, to pen and paper, what they wrote with their own hands. Anybody have any comments on this stuff?
Just there at the end, you were reading, Eugene, that they noted United States instead of United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
So that's different.
Well, if you realize, the Articles of Confederation weren't actually adopted until 1781 or something like that. So this is right now 1776. So when people are talking about constitutions, think about where you are right now. Right? Think about where this Declaration of Independence is, where this Constitution is, and these service contracts. because that's what they are. They're service contracts. And then I want everybody to make very, very clear of what's going on with these styles. What is a style? It says quite clearly these learned men making spelling mistakes, these bar attorneys making spelling mistakes on a critical document such as the Articles of Confederation. We're talking critical documents here. So I'm just reading. I'm just reading what is actually history. So, and what I'm reading here, I can go and substantiate. I can go look this stuff up. So a lot of things that I go and find, you know, are because you have to literally go and do your own research, people. You got to stop believing things that anybody tells you. You have to go and research this yourself. And if it's wrong, then you need to prove it to yourself it's wrong. So all we can say is that everyone has their own ability to discern. And then when we discern, that's up to us. What do we see in front of us? What do we read in front of us? What's in the National Archives? What's written in the Library of Congress? It's quite simple. What you're seeing here has been in print all the way up into the 30s. You can't get rid of this stuff. You're not getting rid of this stuff. You just have to find it. Okay, and everybody that thinks that they can just go to ChatGPT or go to whatever and just give them, yes, these AIs might help you in the right direction, but you literally have to go digging for this stuff. You have to go looking onto other databases, and you have to go start, looking for things in other databases. So that's your only way where you can actually come to discernment and come to your own, conclusions. So when I see stuff like this, I say, yeah, what do we got here? And as you read further on into these Articles of Confederation, you're talking about this is only the first 2 years that we're reading here. Oh, trust me, there's a whole lot of stuff that hasn't been presented yet. There's a whole lot of stuff that's going to make your mouth drop. There's a whole lot of stuff that we were never taught. And not that we're not taught this stuff, but now you can just say, look at this stuff and say, hey, what's plausible here? What's not plausible? Okay? And these people that they're talking about, and I always tell people all the time about about looking up dead bodies. Looking up dead bodies. Find their dead body. This guy was anybody. Go look for his dead body. Even in his own town, if he was anybody, go find his dead body. Those things that people don't, you got to look at things from outside the box. You don't, you can't look at them from, from what everybody else wants you to look at them at. And so you find things that you don't see, and people find things that they don't ever see because they're not looking in the right place for them. Cool. Because nobody's ever talked about these Articles of Confederation. Nobody even talks about what the word confederation means. Confederation. With or what? Con what? With what? Sorry, you can't escape the Latin. The Latin's what it is. Con what? Constitute. What does that mean? Constitution, is that like life? With life? Constitution is how much life you have, right? So, all right. Anybody have comments? Or are we just all in shock?
How do we make peace with this?
That's interesting. I don't know how to make peace. I'm just saying that I don't know. I don't make anything with it. I'm just saying this is what it is, and I don't know any more than anyone else does.
Can I tell you my story?
Sure, knock yourself out.
Okay, so I was forced into a hospital and was forced into a blood draw. And based on the symptoms I experienced in the hospital, I did some research and I expanded my search to global. And I found some U.S. patents that are being operated by the Navy right now. And I might have disturbed that by making that public. And I didn't mean to disturb anything.
May I? Those patents have been going on a long time. They've got one on streptococcus IA. They got one on meningitis. This has been going on for a while, so it's just people just finding out about it. That's all. But most people aren't even.
Yeah,
it
was the full patent list of the 5G operation.
Yeah, most people aren't even going to believe that that even exists. Those are for, to make your phones work faster. So I wouldn't really worry about it too much. But if it is something that we have to address, as, you probably do that in your business assembly.
Okay,
that would be,
you.
Yeah.
Anyway, boy, it's awfully quiet. I mean, are we in shock or something? Or I don't know. It's strange.
I'm not in shock. I'm just doing a lot of stuff, but.
Yeah, I got you. All righty.
Definitely interesting to say the least to find all this stuff and to know where to find it. That's great too. I've always known about the Library of Congress and all that stuff. You said this was the International Archive?
That's the National Archives.
Okay. Because I've been doing genealogy for a long time, so I do census and the consensus and try to trace my lineage back.
If you're searching military records, there's a U.S. Land and Bounty warrant, or www.fold3.com.
Fold?
That's great. Fold and number 3.com.
www.fold3.com, okay.
Yeah, it's good for searching military records and silly stuff like that. And then there's another site, what the hell is that one? It's really nice. The Haiti, HAT Trust. HATHI Trust.org, I think it is. And that's great for looking up all kinds of silly stuff. They got all kinds of wild documents on there that are a little hard to find. But I do know that was on this site, and it happened to be a lot of those pages that were credited on the actual Articles of Confederation were actually removed from the site. So, as I said, they can't get rid of all this because there's way too many of the copies in print. So, yeah, they can make it disappear online, but they can't make it disappear, in the real world, because there's copies of it everywhere. Anyway,
I'd like to make a comment. I'd like to make a comment about that word style. I really enjoy the art of sophistry, or otherwise known as semantics, legalese. So just the word style, when you first think of the word style and you talk to these youth, talk to the youth about what the word style is, and you try to show them that, they're just going to, what are you talking about? So I really think that a good focus, too, is to try to figure out a way to get the youth involved in a way that, because you already know they got a short attention span from all the dopamine from their phones. We have to reach them somehow. As I've been talking about the death certificate and things like that, we can free ourselves all day long, but at the end, if our posterity doesn't know or is not interested in this, I'm trying to come up with ways to make this interesting. So we might maybe move it into a movie where the horses are coming in. These kids, they just have these real short attention spans. That's my main dilemma right now, is to bring the one, which is myself, and then to try to bring my posterity forward. So I talk about the art of sophistry all the time, how they tend to, they can't hide this all day long, but they can take words in here and change the definitions so that we, for lack of a better term, we're living in the modern day Tower of Babel. You ever be talking to somebody and we're talking about they do it with movies, they do it with all kinds of stuff. I'm talking about a movie from the 70s and 80s, and they're talking about some movie with a whole nother concept that has nothing to do with anything anymore. And I just think that the one way to decipher if it's a Latin or Greek term, because most words come from Latin and Greek, and they have progressed on through culture and such as our society deems, they've used it. We're talking about street language, we're talking about all different kinds of stuff. But when you boil it down, contract words are actually made up words and respelled of old words that they do not want us to know. So the word style, I would have never thought that would in a million years there would be a bridge over. That was beautiful. I absolutely love the art of sophistry. But again, even if you read in your earlier Bibles, because I read out of the 1599 Geneva Bible, because I don't want to take on the nobility or whatever it is. And I find that they have a lot of words that are spelled differently than they are now. Even the grammar you learn in college isn't the same as when you're writing your documents sometimes. For me anyway. I mean, we all going to have our own philosophy and self-governance on what we do and how we discern. But what are we doing to try to bridge the gap with all of the words and how they mean different things? And how can we make it, I don't want to say fun or entertaining, because you got to understand, this is my life. I love definitions. I love dictionaries. Not a lot of people are like me. Some people just want to entertain themselves with movies and things, and the conveniences of life and pleasures and whatnot. Think of modern day Rome, how they must did it back then. One of my favorite periods of history is going to be 4th century. Anything Aristotle, Plato, real literature, things that are going to help you learn, versus the modern day society of this education and nothing that's riddled with propaganda to make, indentured servants out of our posterity. Those are some of my main concerns, and how are we going to battle that? So I want to have a big mission to somehow make some sort of curriculum for the youth like take something like this and really boil it down and say, hey, this is real, Here, let's put it in the context of this so you can really get a better understanding of it. So those are my takes on it, because that's what's constantly going through my brain right now. Because if I die right now, they're just going to sell me right back into slavery with that death certificate. So let's just talk about it. And I will probably keep bringing this up. Anyhow, I usually digress a little bit. If anybody has any things to say about that and how we can apply everything that we're learning today. What we're learning is we're trying to learn this so that we do not repeat this, so that we can keep this going, because they've already somewhat changed it. They already have 2 different things going on right now in your high schools with these kids. They have U.S. history. U.S. history? What? What happened to American history? What happened to the real curriculum? I talk to scholars all the time. They'll sit there and say, yeah, well, I got a doctorate in this, I got a doctorate in that. I said, yeah, and where did your curriculum come from? Who wrote it? You're a pharmacist. Who do you think wrote that curriculum? I actually prayed for a book, an American history book, and I ended up getting this one. It's a second edition. I was quite intrigued by it. And inside, I put it up, but I found a $2 bill from like 1915 in it. Yeah, that was really. I put it up. It's in the safe, but I just kind of think it's real interesting what they're trying to teach our kids and how they're using this art of sophistry and our legalese and our words and everything to where we're saying one thing, but they can't hear it, even as in layman terms. We're talking about the commoners, not the common folk. People that aren't scholars, that don't self-govern. That's what my main thing is. How do we get more people here to be more intrigued with? And you can always bring up, oh, we're too tired of paying taxes. Everybody, that's. Anyhow, that's my dilemma right now. I've got a lot of youth that I talk to every day that are under 27 years old. And I teach them little words here or there. They're like, well, what's the word of the day? And I'll say, well, the word's female. What do you think the word female really means? And they'll say, well, that's me. I'm a female. I said, no, you're not a female, actually. That would be shipping cargo or a dog. So... And then they say, really? And I say, yeah. I said, you're a girl, or you're a boy, or you're a woman, or you're a man. Those are the basics. When I'll just talk about, I went to jail. They put me down on paper as a female because they can't put down the living woman, right? And I actually crossed it out because they let me touch it. She said, sign right here. I don't know why they want your signature. I mean, at this point, it's complete extorted signatures, even extorted autographs, whatever you want to say it. You're in jail. They got to extort a signature out of you to make a security out of it, right? So how can we take this? We know that this is real. We know that everything that Eugene is teaching today, this is what it's about right here. We need to understand that we are not under those guises. And the more we get a testimony, the more we're going to grow. The more we're going to know who we are. We're going to know where we stand.
Well, Amber, let's keep it in perspective here for a second. Hold on a second.
Absolutely.
Let's just keep it all in perspective. Okay. A lot of times we are distracted by all this, and it gets to be very distracting. So a lot of people have a lot of information to digest. And we have to allow people to digest this information at their own pace and at their own ability. I can't force somebody to stuff down their throat, because the more you try to bring this forward, if they don't hear you, they don't hear you. So
yeah, I'm all about meeting where they're at. That's a good thing, to meet them where they're at. Yeah.
You seem to be a bit disillusioned by all of it, but the whole point is the search for truth is what it is, and we just keep on looking for it. That's all. And the more that we find, the more we make a better decision in our future. I mean, that's what it all has come down to. This has all come down to, hey, you learn this, and you make a better decision. Now you've learned this, you make a better decision. Hey, course correcting, right? I don't know everything, and just because I'm not teaching anything, I'm just reading. I'm reading what's here. I didn't write this stuff.
I get that. I was just bringing up an open-ended question to have that.
No, I got you. I know what you're saying. It's like what it is, but a lot of people are having a you have to let people learn and grow at their own pace. And that's why this whole discussion is about, where I'm not telling anybody anything. I'm just putting it out here. Listen, I just read for you this. Now, everyone, please. Yeah, just take it and
it says
gather.
Here it says, for a review of the summary of the journals to be read and recorded for posterity. I love it. That's at bottom of page 9.
Yeah, well, the whole point is it still comes back down to these were things that were written by our forefathers that were never presented to us. And somebody needs to ask why this was never presented to us. This is written by our founding fathers. Whose agenda? Oh. So I think what's my Monday? We're going to do 1777. Go ahead.
Dawn and Rosie had their hand up next.
Go for it. Rosie!
Hey, Eugene.
Hello.
Hello.
I never get to talk to you because you're always in and out. You're like a thief in the night. She's like, in and out. I yield. What's up?
Well, when you were talking about United States, the United States of America, some people may not know about the 6 branches of the government and the governmental service corporations. So I put that one-page chart in the chat. It's an attachment.
Okay, but Rosie, this is long before all this government stuff, so.
Right.
Yeah, this is before they even made the government and the constitutions.
Right. Some people may not know these.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's why they made the comment.
Oh, okay.
So I put it there. People can go look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good idea to put that sequence and structures into your mind. So when we talk about something, you would understand what people are talking about.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's very simple when it comes down to this whole who created what. That's all. And what I want everybody to understand is this document came first. This is first. Okay, this claim of the Declaration of Independence comes from this document. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It says quite clearly what it says. So, but tomorrow or Monday, we are going to do 1777. And oh my Lord, the hell that breaks loose in 1777. The history of 1777. The unavoidable history of the said United States. You know, we got our asses kicked by the British. Our Navy got our butts kicked that year. I think like a month and a half after they labeled the flag. A month and a half after they decided on the flag, we got our butts kicked. Had all of our ships stripped of their guns. Funny stuff, man. Stuff that nobody knows about.
I think Rick has his hands up next.
Go for it. What you got, Rick?
Sorry, it's taken me a little bit to get myself unmuted.
It's all good, Rick. How are you, buddy?
Good. You had asked about why our government doesn't educate us to these points that we're going over today, and why the curriculum in the schools are the way they are. The very simple answer is it keeps those without an open eye and mind trapped in gobbledygook information and not seeing the light of day. It's the same thing why I asked an educator back in the 90s in regards to my son, why are you teaching him to lie? And she looked at me and said, what are you talking about? I said, you know as well as I know that Christopher Columbus didn't discover anything. There were people already here for centuries, for thousands of years. So how can he discover something that already exists? So in essence, if my son on your test states that Christopher Columbus did not discover America, you're going to mark it wrong. You're teaching him to lie. I rest.
Sounds pretty damn accurate to me. Well, listen to this, though. I mean, what do you think our whole battle is? Our whole battle is the indoctrination. Our whole battle is the dodos. It's not that they're dodos, but it's just that they're just so stewed in their mentality. Hey, even Nino said it very simply. What does government mean? Governmental. Govern your mental. Govern your mind. Governmental. Back to words have meaning. Govern your mind. Keep you in line, right? But yes, I totally agree with you, because the worst part about it is I had the same feeling when I was raising my kids, and now my kids are all adults. You come to the dilemma and you say, well, if you don't teach your children how to survive inside the matrix, are you not doing them a disservice? You get what I'm saying? If you're not, are you not doing them a disservice? A lot of times it's a question you need to ask, because these things are real and these things are part of, what people have to do when it comes to raising their kids. Are you going to bring them up with this idea that, hey, everybody's all crazy and Well, yes and no. I mean, I put it in the same way by saying to them, it's just like a game. And when you're playing this game, these are the rules of said game. That's what it makes, because what are you supposed to do as a parent? Are you supposed to teach them how to survive in the matrix? Or do you teach them both? Maybe it's a little of both. I mean, I guess what it comes down to is each and every one of us, back to this journey of that all of us are on. And we learn, and as we learn, this is where we are in this journey. So this is very important for how we are when it comes to this journey. So any other comments? I know it's a lot of crazy stuff that was out here. A lot of crazy stuff said.
May I comment on what you guys are talking about? This is Lonnie from Canada.
Go for it, Lonnie.
Hey guys, thanks for having me again. Unfortunately, I was in and out. My internet's really bad today because I'm really interested in this historical stuff down there. But anyway, I really like what you guys are talking about right now, what you and Rick were just talking about. Our son, he's 14 now, and we homeschooled him initially for a few years or so. And then this COVID debacle just totally screwed up my career because my wife was a stay-at-home mom. And so we now have him in a little private school, which costs more than we would like, but, he's worth it, obviously. And now they still teach Common Core curriculum, so it's still garbage, right? But because it's very small, there's like 5 kids in this class, maybe 6, and they really encourage a lot of communication between the teachers and the parents and the principal and whatnot. And I take advantage of that, I tell them straight up, this is a lie, what you're teaching, we're appropriate. But anyway, by homeschooling him initially, our main focus with that was to retain his critical thinking and clarity of thought. The school's designed to crush that, goes without saying, and a certain amount of truth. You got to pick and choose, right? You can only go so far with a child that young. You want them to enjoy their childhood, but I think it's extremely irresponsible. What Eugene was getting at, it's extremely irresponsible and negligent not to equip your children with the tools they need to navigate this mess. And so it's really great the way he's developed. It's really inspiring because he for a few years now, he tells me, well, ever since he started this private school, actually, he'll I'm like, so what did you learn today, buddy? You know how kids always are. They always say nothing. How it starts. Then you draw it out, and then I'm like, okay, so what do you think of that? And he's like, oh, that's a lie. That's total nonsense. I know that. That's not what happened, And it really makes me laugh and feel proud because they're not going to get them now. You know what I mean? So you got to start that foundation that Eugene's talking about pretty young because, once it gets in there, it's hard to undo, right? So anyway, I appreciate you guys going there with that angle of the topic. Because what are we doing here? Are we going to protect our children like we absolutely should be, or just leave them to fend on their own? Not right. Anyway, I yield. Thank you.
Yeah, I got you, Lonnie. I totally agree. It's like you have to allow your kids. It's like, look, your job, your ability to acquire a higher paying job is completely dependent upon many times your level of education. And as much as people may not like that as a gauge of a measure of a person, I do agree that kids need to at least go to that level of education and academic education. Whether or not they have the ability to regurgitate that information is not the same as their comprehension and digestion of that information. So,
yeah, exactly, man. When I was late elementary school, early high school, that clicked at that point. I'm like, hold on a second here. The kid's getting better than average marks in this room. or the school, they're not any smarter than I am or the guy sitting beside me. You know, they're better at that, at retaining it and not questioning it and just regurgitating it, right? So once I figured that out, you know, I was fortunate because my father, although he doesn't get it now, he reads more than anybody I know. So I was just surrounded by all these books. And he didn't know at the time, but it's like a very vast range of topics, history to science, space, all kinds of things. Anyway, I would just pick up random books, and I'd read the back, I'd read the intro, I'd read a chapter, whatever, and I'd start piecing dots together over time. So there were times I'd skip school to go to the library and start looking for old books, you know, on history. You know, and hold on, I know what the teacher's telling me right now is a lie, and I couldn't just look at what I was learning from my dad's books that were 180 degrees different than what the teacher was teaching, and automatically assume that that was correct. It became a question of, well, which one is correct? And that was an important lesson because what it taught me is follow the evidence path, not just believe one side or the other. And it happened very organically, right? But I'm thankful for that. And, yeah, I'm really big on that. You know, we have to teach our children because this mess is just going to keep going, right? But the thing is, the one thing that helps us with the model you were just talking about, Eugene, with the you gotta get a good education, get good grades, get a good job, have a good future, right? That model's been broken for a long time, okay? And so, I mean, how many young adults do we all know that went to university or college for whatever, and they're working at a 7-Eleven, you know what I mean? Because they just can't get into their field because that model is broken. So we can exploit that and go, well, why is that model broken? You've spent all this time, all this money, all this energy, and you can't even survive now, right? So it's important, I think, to see all of that picture so we can pass it on to the young adults as well, right? Yeah. You?
May I? Yeah, if you understand how the whole system's working, you understand, well, I'll speak for Arkansas. They literally put these, what are they called? Not sophomores, but anyway, the ninth graders, or when they're first going into college, they get them to go on campus and they get them to get in debt and they do all those things. But what do they do with these certificates and these diplomas? That just goes along with it. If people understood how this backdoor works and what they're utilizing all those things for, I think that would help the adults understand it to be able to explain it to the child or young adult. Because my understanding, because I've got so much college, it's sick, but I never graduated, and I'm so proud. You have no idea how proud I am of that. I don't have any doctorates. I don't have that. I've got probably enough to have a master's and who knows what. I've studied so many different things because they told me that I had to narrow the discipline, that I had to pick one thing, and never works for me. I have a high aptitude test of most things all the way across except for maybe social at that time because I was kind of shy as a child, but I'm since grown out of that. But I break that down into symbolism because once you can understand and decode the symbolism, then you can start seeing how backdoors work and things like how we all know that the bank has a back door and how they do things versus most people only see what's going on in the front door. You know, you go in, you write your paperwork, you give them this signature, they give you the house, and then they leave. But if you understand the whole back door, how that works, it kind of changes the game a little bit. So same thing with colleges, high schools. I just got done. I had to let go of a job because I told them I was tax exempt. I've been tax exempt for 4 years. I've worked very hard for it. They do these modules, okay, of like, let's say we card minors for cigarettes. This is relative. Hear me out with this concept. So you do this little module. It takes 45 minutes to an hour. They want you to read it thoroughly. What are they doing? They're programming you, right? They're programming you the way that they want you to behave and the way they want you to do things. And at the end, they say, oh, you get a certificate. Yay, you. But where do those certificates go? And how much are they making off of each one of those?
I have 2 boys and a girl. The girl, youngest, my 2 boys. Yeah.
What you said, I thought you said
yeah.
Kids, but you didn't say if you. I don't know that.
Yeah, my oldest is 16. My youngest is my younger is 14, and the youngest is 9. She just turned 9 in December. I'm an older dad too, but.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording because again, we're starting to get private information. So I don't know where all this recording will go. So Eugene, is there anything else you want to say before I stop the recording?
Look at some stuff.
Sounds great.
Where do you?
At it.
I'm next.
All right, stop the recording.